Welcome back to AM Northwest. It is a cornerstone of Oregon's economy, generating nearly $13 billion for our state. But much has changed over the past 200 years. Here to share more about the importance of Oregon's timber industry, we welcome from Associated Oregon Loggers, Jim Geisinger. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
How important is the logging industry to the state?
Well, as you mentioned, it's almost a $13 billion industry. We employ 76,000 people around the state with a payroll of about $3.5 billion. But more importantly, we produce more softwood lumber in Oregon than any other state in the country. People like what we make here in Oregon, and it's utilized around the world every day. So we make a product that's in very high demand, and we think we do it better than any place else in the country.
What is softwood?
Softwood is the kind of lumber that we build homes out of.
Oh, okay.
And it's very timely right now because the housing industry is gaining traction, and we think the next 3 or 4 years are going to be very, very good years for our industry.
Who owns the forest land? Who owns the land that you're harvesting?
Well, in Oregon, 60% of our forests are owned by the federal government, and that's an issue that we deal with daily. Those lands used to produce half of the logs that we consumed in our industry. Today it's less than 10%. And the dramatic change occurred in 1990 when the spotted owl was listed as a threatened species, but probably the bigger impact occurred in 1994 when the Clinton administration implemented the Northwest Forest Plan. Harvest levels on our federal lands have dropped by 90% since that time, and we're paying the price today with catastrophic wildfire.
Yeah, so talk about the fire season then.
Well, there's over 1 million acres burning today or in the process of being extinguished. And what's interesting, they're almost exclusively on our federal forests. People talk a lot about climate change being the cause of the incidence of fire in our state. But the fact is almost all of the large fires, the very destructive fires, are occurring on federal lands. So if you look at the correlation, is it between climate change or is it between not managing our forests?
And what you mean by not managing is fallen trees, dead and dying trees, they fall, and what you're creating is a lot of
excess fuels.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there is more wood dying on our national forests every year now than we ever harvested, even in our heyday.
So when we think about forest fires, how does forest fires compare on the public lands versus privately owned lands?
The fires that have occurred on private land have been kept very small and extinguished very efficiently. The large fires, the 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 acre fires, are occurring almost exclusively on our federal forests.
You say loggers are often family-owned businesses.
Oh, absolutely. That's a tradition in Oregon, and most of them are managed by the second, third, or even fourth generation of family owners. Most of our members average about 10 to 12 employees. We have some that employ over 100. We have many that employ 2. But the average is a small family-owned business, and they're almost exclusively located in rural Oregon.
And I know from being around your group a few times, those family loggers, to them, sustainable forest lands is important because it's not just good for the ecosystem, but it's good for their business. They don't want to just go down and cut trees and leave the land bare.
Well, and it's good for their communities, too.
Yeah.
And these are people that are salt-of-the-earth folks that have put their heart and soul not just into their business, but into their communities and their families and the people that depend on them for employment.
How big is demand for lumber out of Oregon?
Oh, it's huge. Like I said, we make more softwood lumber than any other state in the country. It's exported around the country, but also internationally. Douglas fir is the premier species that people want to use, not just for construction, but for interior design as well. And Europe is a big market, and it's an internationally traded commodity.
And a very big part of Oregon's history as well.
Oh, it really is. You know, we've been around for a couple hundred years. We've been a very colorful part of the state's history, but we're also a very important part of its future.
Well, and you look great for being around a couple hundred years.
Well, you know what? And you do too.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good to see you, Jim.
If you'd like to find out more about the Associated Oregon Loggers, just call 503-364-1330. Put the information on our website at k2.com. Thanks,
Thanks
Jim.
for coming in today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.